It's Tuesday, so you're going to have your Tuesday tip. This week we're going to talk about pica because someone asked about it in the group, so I figured why not? I've worked with a lot of people with pica. As a preface, and this video might be slightly longer than the other Tuesday ones, which I try to keep between 5 and 10 minutes. But pica is one of the most dangerous behaviors that, if you're a behavior analyst, that you will treat. It is one of the few that can very often be fatal. It's not an unusual thing for someone to be seriously injured or die because of pica. What pica is consuming inedible objects. And there's a huge range of what's inedible, and there's a big range of how dangerous those things are. But it's basically consuming things that are not food, that are not digestible, that are not meant to be eaten. They are inedibles. So there's a huge range of what kinds of items someone with pica might go after. What I've seen, and I've worked with quite a few people with pica, I'm not sure why, but it happened. And I've worked with some people with really severe pica. But every single one of them that I worked with had a very specific kind of thing they would try to find to eat. So, for example, I had one really young girl. It was really sad. She had a really intense condition. But anyway, she was on the hunt for fuzz. Why fuzz? I don't know. I couldn't ask her and she couldn't tell me. But she really wanted fuzz. So her foster mom was awesome, and this was early in my career. I think it was the first time I had anybody that had pica. So she took everything with fuzz out of her room to make sure that, if she was unsupervised for any amount of time, she wouldn't have fuzz that she could find and consume. So what happened was, if you try to just block access in an incomplete way, and even in a complete way, pica can be really tricky. So what happened with this girl was she dug into her stuffed animals, got fuzz from there. So mom got rid of the stuffed animals, then she went to her pillows, got fuzz from there. Mom replaced the pillows with the foam pillows because they weren't quite fuzz, and then ultra wrapped them. So then she moved on and dug fuzz out of her mattress. She scraped her mattress with just her hands until she got through the fabric so she could pull fuzz out of the mattress. That was surprising. And then, she got a mattress cover, and once she couldn't get in the mattress anymore, she was pulling fuzz out of her diaper to eat. Because she was young. She was probably 5 or 6. But yeah, she was still in diapers. She wasn't toilet trained yet. But she had this intense fuzz crazy. And I've seen other things like this, but it's just a good example for you guys to understand. Everyone that I've worked with that engages in pica, which again is just a behavior, it's just consuming inedibles. You at BCBA, you can diagnose pica. I can diagnose pica. Also, it's not in all caps. For years, people were doing it capital PICA. It doesn't stand for anything. It's diabetes or multiple sclerosis. It doesn't need to be in all caps. But it's not like diabetes in that only doctors can diagnose it. It is a behavior, right? So you can observe someone and say they have pica if you see them eating coins, which is not an uncommon one, especially among people with schizophrenia. Just so you know, persons with schizophrenia, not uncommon, wildly, to engage in pica. Pregnant women, again, not wildly uncommon, not common, but not crazy uncommon. For them to engage in pica, specifically dirt is the most common type of pica that they're looking to consume, is soil. Nobody knows why, but for pregnant women. So it's not only our guys that do this. In the animal kingdom, there's pica quite a bit. So it's unusual, but less unusual than you might think. And there's analogies all over the place for pica. So it's not just our guys that are developmentally disabled and stuff like that do this. It's a lot of populations. Anyway, moving on. So yes, you can diagnose pica. No, it's not in all caps. It is a behavior, not a medical condition. It is eating things that are inedible. And then what that does is it can end up killing someone if they eat enough inedibles that cannot be digested. Eventually, it'll create a blockage in their intestines. So when the pica is with trichotillomania, which again is a very common behavior change. So I had this girl, but this is common among anyone that pulls hair like compulsively, including typically developing populations, is that they'll pull out a hair, and she would do this too. Yank it out, study her follicle, and again, studying the follicle is like standard topography for trichotillomania. It's very strange. The behavior shows up like so similarly in so many people. But then pica, so after the follicle study, eating it. So I've had a few people that had basors, is what it's called. It creates this like hard ball of undigested material that's just like accumulating in your intestines, and it can cause like intestinal rupture, which will give you sepsis, which can kill you. So it's really dangerous. So hair is a common one that can't be digested, and eventually that accumulates. I've had people that wanted metal things, so like screws, nuts, bolts. Those are really dangerous because they can tear, which is like perforate your intestine, your stomach. Again, you will get sepsis. You need to go get immediate like emergency surgery if someone does that. And even then, it's not guaranteed. It's really bad. So there's like a range of severities with pica, but it's always severe to some extent because it can be life-threatening. So like the person I had that wanted like nuts and bolts and screws, that was the most dangerous, right? Like she unscrewed a nut from like under the seat in the van while she was just in transport, like going home from day program, so she could eat it. Like it is a powerful, powerful, powerful compulsion, which is not very behavior analytic. So I'm going to say it has such strong motivating operations, and they do not satiate. So if you've worked with anyone with Prader-Willi, which I've had a couple of those guys, it's similar in like how strong the like behavior altering, value altering effects are. It's really powerful. So for the woman that was eating screws and nuts and bolts and stuff like that could perforate, she got intestinal x-ray every 6 months to make sure there was nothing in there. And that was a standard part of my protocol when I worked with adults. My standard was a year. She had more frequent because the types of things she would eat were so dangerous. I had another person that had pica, and who knows like how this topography like shows up or gets shaped up, right? But like this person was really into paper, right? So they would just eat pieces of paper and like tear off papers and eat them. And I talked to the person's doctor and everything, and like it's not great. It's not good for you, but it's not like ultra dangerous, right? So since mostly that person went for paper, and that's semi-digestible, it's not food, but it's not going to like perforate and give you sepsis and need emergency surgery, probably. Don't take my word for it. It's what the doctor told me. But so that person that was eating paper would have once a year someone who's eating like screws and nuts and bolts every 6 months, just to make sure there was nothing in there. And if she was ever somehow left to her own devices and not like monitored in a room that hadn't been swept, which I will get to, then she would go for an immediate x-ray also, just to make sure nothing was going to perforate and potentially kill her. So part of how I treat pica is stomach x-rays. Routinely, I work with the MD. I explain what kinds of things the person is really like trying to eat, and we work out a schedule that makes sense and that's safe. You can't do that on your own. Do it with the person's medical doctor. Like their primary care physician will work with you on that. I've never had a doctor that didn't want to like collaborate with me for pica. So the x-rays are important. Room sweeps. If you don't do x-rays, not every place does x-rays, not everyone gets it. It's actually like the exception, not the rule. Room sweeps are the rule with pica. What a room sweep is, and the way you want to do it, again, because this is very dangerous, and even if the person doesn't die, if they rupture, they're gonna have to go get like massive abdominal surgery and will probably have severe infections. So a room sweep is like, right now I'm in my office. If I get up and go to the bathroom, before I go to the bathroom, a staff would go into the bathroom, go over everything in there with a fine-tooth comb, and remove anything that isn't too large to swallow, right? So like I used to be like, if it is smaller than like a little dodgeball kind of thing, because like people can, if they're motivated enough, can swallow surprising things. But anything smaller than like around this size, I would say it has to go. And you know, again, assess and what kind of house it is. That's just the size I would give them, because if I go up, then they would be safe. If I'd go down, they might think things were okay that were not okay. But you definitely can't swallow anything this size, so I thought it worked out well. Anyway, they take everything out. Before the person gets in there, they're going to sign a log that they swept the room, they checked before the person went in. Person goes to the bathroom, they have their privacy, there's nothing in there, they can try to eat. Before the person comes back into this room, so if it's me, if I go to the bathroom, the staff is going to sweep the bathroom, sign the log that they did a sweep, there's nothing in there that's small enough to swallow before they let me in. And they're going to sweep this room before I come back to it, even though I was just in this room. To go to the bathroom and no one else was in here, you'd say, why are you going to sweep it again? Sweep it again, sign the log again, in case anything got missed, in case someone came in and set something down and you didn't notice, because again, this can be fatal. So room sweeps, anytime they leave one room and enter another. You sweep the room they're going to before they get in, and when they go back to the original room, you also sweep that room, and you have staff sign logs that they did all of these sweeps. It's really important. And then you also, one more thing, just so I don't forget. And this is an odd thing to know, but I've worked with quite a few people with pica. I had a few that ate things that were like string, like shoelaces or whatever. If for any reason, pica or not, in any mammal, right? So like it could be your cat or your child or you yourself. If there is a piece of string coming out of a mammal's butt, right? Like you see like the end of a string, and it could be like a shoelace or, you know, a cord or whatever, do not pull it. No matter what you do, do not pull it. Do not let them pull it, because that can tear intestines and do an enormous amount of damage. If you see string, generally if you work at like an agency that has on-call, I would just call the nurses to go out and assess it. Sometimes they'll look at it and be like, you know what, that's gonna pass, it's not a big deal. Sometimes they say go straight to the ER, the emergency room, but do contact like someone with more medical background than you if you see like a piece of string coming out of someone's butt, but like the rest of the string is still inside of them. Do not pull it ever, ever, ever. You can accidentally like kill someone, honestly. So never do that. Okay, now that I have the string thing, I had one more thing. Oh, that's right, function. Pica's not always an automatic function. It's not even always a sensory function. It is like, the best way I can describe it, if you haven't worked with it directly, it's like often a really intense nervous habit is how I've seen it most common. But reinforcement can shape up anything or make anything multiply controlled. So could someone engage in pica for attention? Absolutely. Have I seen that? Yeah, I have. If they figure out that you're going to take them to the ER, the instant you see a piece of string, right, because you're not pulling it out of them, that might be an escape function where they're going to eat more string, right? So there's often, like most of the time, a sensory element to pica. It's one of the functions or an automatic function, but it's not guaranteed to be the only function. It's often not the only function, and it's not even guaranteed that that is the primary function. It could be only for attention. There could be no automatic function. With any behavior, just don't assume function, do an assessment. Even if it seems like it's a thing that, of course it's sensory, of course it's automatic, like pica, you still have to do the assessment, because I have found other functions for stuff like that. So I think that's all I have to say about pica. Sorry, this was a little longish and I'm a little scattered. I'm leaving tomorrow for ABAI in Philadelphia. If you're going to be there, come see me. I'm doing a workshop Thursday evening from 4 to 7. I'll post information about that. And that's it. If you want to see more stuff like this, please follow or subscribe, or whichever platform it's on. And I will see you guys next week.